Welcome to Made Up of Wires, where we've been decompiling Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and we'll continue to do so today. If you're not familiar with the Castlevania Symphony of the Night decompilation project, go to soten.z.dev, where you'll find progress on the increasing number of overlays that have been completely decompiled or nearly decompiled. We have quite a bit here, and more every day. We've been working on the Sword Familiar the last couple days, and we're going to continue that today. I do want to point out that the Demon Familiar was recently imported, and work is being done there as well. I was thinking about just importing the rest of the Familiars, because there is a good deal of commonality between them, and it doesn't take a lot of work to import new ones. Morning, Dig Down Deep. Morning, Orcam. Evening for you, I guess, Dig Down Deep. It's really fun, I think, that this project is so global, and we have people from all over working on it, and as always, thank you for tuning in. So yesterday we were working on this function in the Sword Familiar servant overlay, familiar overlay. And I didn't spend much time working on this, a few things here and there, just to see if there's anything that I could clean up before coming back today. There's a few things here. There's a multiply by 8 that was missing before. Actually, this one looks like it isn't a multiply by 8, it's a add 2. Down below it was multiply by 8. I did pull the PSP version, and we'll take a look at that and see if that can give us any additional insight. That actually is not right either. There we go. So let's look at the PSP version and see if there's any insights we can get from that. It'd be nice if the browser cooperated. I'm just going to copy the PlayStation version over, and I need to set up the context. I don't believe we're dealing with primitives, so there's nothing that needs to be done related to that. But I will get that over, and I might actually take a peek at the PSP decomp, since those have been pretty good lately as well. The automated decompile. So a slight difference in logic here, where thank you, Orcam. A full if-else between the two. Otherwise, our loop looks pretty similar. There is this logic here, and I was trying to integrate this into my version, where it does look like these are dereference of this pointer and then an increment in line, which is a pretty common idiom we see when that gets optimized on the PlayStation side. It becomes quite a bit different looking. We have the same peculiarness with scratch pad. So what I think I'll do is start working in here, and then see how close we can get on the PSP side. There is a slight difference down. Oh no, this is just the else condition. I don't see anything else that looks too challenging there. So let's try that out. Yeah, when I got back, over the weekend, I had to back up and restore. I had some file system corruption, and so I backed up and restored my laptop. And macOS is pretty good about everything just being the way you left it, but for whatever reason, my OBS config just was totally borked, and I had to redo a bunch of stuff, which is why the audio levels were so bad. But I appreciate all the feedback during yesterday's stream. All right, so I'm going to we'll switch this and make this more similar to what the decompiler did. I am going to, as much as possible, be trying to match the PSP instructions if I can. There is this is somewhat curious. It looks like the args that are coming in are being assigned. It definitely is possible. They're not being used for anything or mutated in any way. But it does look like they are being moved to the stack. So I will comply. And let's see what the decompiler, just making sure that it thought that they were assigned 32s as well. And that looks better. But perhaps not. I think we'll continue on. That may not end up being necessary. We'll see. Our branch comparison is fine. So here we see we are pulling this from the stack pointer, but the offset is wrong. And that may be due to some additional variables that we don't have in place that we should have in place. And hopefully we'll find those along the way. One thing we can do is start marking the stack offsets of these so that we can correct that if necessary. This should be 20. So we're missing, it looks like we're missing one variable. We'll find out where that is. It looks like I is going to be S2. And this top part looks pretty good, except for registers, which I'm not too worried about. The multiply by 4 I was getting from some other code. I'm going to see if changing these to signed will give me the mask. didn't. Oh, so silly. We're loading 16-bit values, and the size. I had mistaken the size because we are using primitives. There was a cast to 8-bit on the PlayStation side, and the cast was because each of these fields that are being assigned are 8-bit fields. Let me fix up the primitive structure. The primitive structure has an additional 32 bits at the beginning of it, and so we need that to get all of our offsets. Oops, not there. There we go. Is that Mortal Kombat 3? Oh. 3D printer? That's awesome. I have a Mark III. I don't remember the specific model. I'd have to open up Cura to see. My extruder is clogged at the moment, and I haven't taken the time to clean it out. All right, so we should be able to go through and update these all to do basically the same thing. Oh, wow. I had one of the cheap acrylic printers many, many years ago, and that served me well, but you spent most of the time printing upgrades for the printer itself. And while that's fun, reliability was questionable, and then, yeah, I upgraded to, I think it's a Mark III Pro, maybe a Mark II Pro. And it just worked out of the box until my current clog. It certainly was one of those things where I traded money for time. All right, so this is looking good except for the registers. The immediate values I'm not worried about. Let's take this back over to the PlayStation side and see if we get a lot of cleanup there. It actually didn't move it too much. Slightly better. Looking at what's wrong at the top here, we do have all these increments. Those look correct. Some register issues, and then this load being out of order is strange, and hopefully that gets resolved as we fix the bottom of this. When I was in college, I worked in a 3D printing lab, which was very novel at the time. And we had a LOM machine, which used like butcher block paper, and each layer was a layer of paper that was glued to and laminated to the one beneath it, and then the laser cutter would come through and cut out the waste, basically score it so that it could be chiseled out later. And what you got was something that felt and looked a lot like wood, taking paper and turning it back into wood effectively. That was a cool machine. I wrote some software for that. That was Windows NT. No, actually, that one ran DOS. That was a DOS control system. That company went out of business, and then there wasn't really a lot of support for it, but we did what we could. Hey, Tux Can Play. Good to have you back. I was IT and web dev and all that kind of stuff. But then we had operators who were working with companies to get their stuff printed. All right, so we still have some variables that we need to figure out, and it may be related to this. And our operators spent so much time sanding parts and post-processing. I thought when people started making 3D printers, there's no way anybody is ever going to do this at home because of all the post-processing. And what happened was nobody post-processes parts, which, I mean, is fine. There's no, I guess, no reason to. If it works, it works. All right, so there's something I screwed up on down here, and the optimizer found it. I think I screwed this value up. Let's go. It was originally hex 48. There we go. And we need something that will increment I. That looks good. Oh, and that looks like that was probably it. All right. And let's see what our PSP version looks like. So we still have some variables that we need. And we could try to figure those out. So we have our move 0. This S4. Back then, 3D printers were in the 6-figure range, and so most companies didn't have them. So we had a nice little consortium of companies that would send us prototypes. One of the funniest things that happened was Johnson & Johnson was one of our customers, and they would send us different medical models, solids to print, and they would prototype them. And one of the pieces was this long, kind of slightly curved shaft that had odd holes in various angles. And you don't really think much of most of those things. They just kind of come and go. And so we need a S1 here that's set to 0. Let's see where else S1 is used. We're using it as I. Sometime later, so it looks like this is being used as I here as well. Sometime later, my roommate, who worked there as well, went skiing and broke his leg and had to put, he had to get pins and everything in it. And what this elongated tube ended up being was a titanium rod that was used to hold broken bones together, and now he had one in his leg. All right, so let's Let's look at S2. So we have this it looks like a second variable. I'm not sure why, but it looks like something else that's being used as the cursor. We can try doing that. I don't know why you would switch that, but that does get us a little closer. At least instruction-wise. That seems superfluous, but who am I to argue? Seems to work out there as well, and fixes the registers as well. So we still have one more register to figure out here. So it may be, I think RS1 is I. So maybe this S0. Now we have our S0 as well. Where else could this be? There is this AT register, which is being used. I feel like previously I've been given hints as to what the cause of the AT register is, but I can't recall those offhand. What I'm looking for is this other register, and so we should have a move or something. Maybe it's S4. See if we can find where S4 is being used. Okay, so S4, their S4 is RS3, and their S3 is I see. So there's a different variable being used for this other set of these UV pairs. So we will use a different variable, and I think this will match then. Oh, we still have register issues. I'm going to try to give this a return type and see if that can force it. No, it doesn't. Okay. A PSP match would be nice, but I'm not terribly concerned about it right now. So let's take this back over to the PlayStation, and hopefully this is it. Okay, so that does introduce one issue. See if we can get rid of that variable on the PSP side. No. PSP side definitely wants something different, but it it really seems unnecessary. So I'm going to go with the PlayStation side for now, and then come back later, and we can worry about the PSP later. That isn't necessarily something that I've seen before, where so many additional pointers are being used. But it does look like that's what the PSP was. All right, so we have a few things that we need to make sure carry over. I have been working on some of the smaller functions in this overlay. And it's coming along pretty well. So a few more things from the context we need. Oh, this data type does need to be updated. It's not clear what those are yet, but that does match, and so I'll come back later and fix that data type. The shape is right, but the names are wrong. All right, so what is next? I was working on AA0. Let me see if I can find that. If that one's worth working on stream. Looks like I killed Safari. We'll go back to that one and see. Save these. So it looks like if I did make any progress on this earlier today, I lost it. Thank you, browsers. All right. So we have not much to go on yet. There is this kind of gross set of nested conditions, and a little trick here with negative offsets. That's because it's pulling in this this address and the compiler's optimized what offsets it's going to calculate by taking an address kind of in the middle of a struct. This one, I may just start with the PSP version since nothing's been done here yet. There are a few data types that I may have already, but it doesn't look like a lot. There's just a handful that have come in. So I'm going to fix the signature. I'm fairly certain this is returning an entity. And that should give us some additional information. So here we're looking at flags, but taking a reference to flags and then basing all of our other offsets based on that. And this is just based on the register. So we do have a reference to some entity, but then using this other offset. And I think that this value is a known offset into the entities table. So we should be able to calculate that as well. Maybe I will work on the PlayStation side first. So let's get some things cleared up and then see where this takes us. So the tricky thing is going to be this was offset 34 bytes from where this entity is. And so let's figure out this entity first, and then we'll see if we can make some progress. So 733D8 is our base address for entities. And so I'm going to take our address here and then subtract the base address. So we're at 2F00, and then we need to get the size of entity. Which is BC. And that gives us offset 64 or hex 40. And let's see if we have anything interesting there. Now we've gone around now. I'm going to look at entity and see if there's any hex 40 there. And just for kicks, look for hex 40 and everything else. Just in case I miss something. Just in case I mixed something. Okay, so we have some some entity that we know is at offset 64. And I will go back eventually and look at so we need to do a few things here. Like I said before, this is an offset of 34 into this particular entity, and so when we're taking negative offsets, we have to base it on that. And so 34 minus E is hex 26. So we can go back and figure out what is at offset 26 in the entity, which is the entity ID. And just start fixing each of these that way. Likewise, we have a positive. I'm going to get rid of this. We have a positive offset, and we need to use our base offset of 34, which gives us 3C, which is the hitbox state. So slowly we'll get each of these figured out. The PSP version probably would have been a little easier, but this isn't too bad. This is going better than I had anticipated. So we're doing the same thing. Excuse me. Again, here we're just looking at the next entity in the list. So looking at entity 65. We don't want to increment by BC. We want to just increment by one element in the pointer. And that looks like it was all that was necessary. I'm not sure why it needed that A0 increment. A0 is getting overwritten down here. But that's fine. And now we have something that's compiling, and we should be able to clean this up. I am going to, as always, disable the built-in signatures. That does disable, because we're not just using the C preprocessor, but also compiling right away. It does disable the built-in implementations as well, which can cause problems, but it probably won't here. That is the exception. And now we can figure out as many of these as possible to get rid of. One thing that we need to be a little careful here. Oh, I hope I didn't lose a lot of work. Let's see if we can get it to come back. Well, that is too bad. Oh, we are compiling. Oh, that's good. Okay, so it does look like flags is always going to be this temp A1. So I don't think that there's anything magical that needs to happen there. There's occasions where the compiler won't trust that that value hasn't changed, but this looks like all reads. So I don't think that's a problem. So what I'd like to do, we're compiling, but this is still kind of messy. I would like to clean up variables, and as those get cleaned up, I'm hoping the logic becomes more apparent. Var T0 we should rename as entity. So we have a big outer loop, and I don't see anything that is driving whether we stay in that loop or not yet. It does look like it's just a infinite loop on the outside. So let's see if we can put that into place. Yeah, I don't see anything that jumps back to that loop except for falling through all of the logic. Var A2, I think we already know that it is a 32-bit value, which we get from here. Whether or not this is being indexed or not, I think is an open question. We would know better from the PSP version. So this go-to seems unnecessary because we're going to fall through to that block anyway. Looks like we have another infinite loop. actually, this one, I'm sorry. It is bound by this var A3. Looks like it appears here that the sign is being maintained, so we're either at the result is either going to be 0 or -1. This var A3_2 can go away. All right, so now we just have to work out the rest of this logic. Because this is a pointer to 32-bit values, and we can look at this. This likely is an array rather than a pointer. This is in the BSS section. And so we're not going to get a lot of detail, but we can still look at it. And so a fairly large array of (32-bit) values. No, I did miss this. Give me 1 second. Take a little break and come right back. Say bye. You're watching Made Up of Wires. All right, we're back. So I'm gonna see what I can do about getting rid of some of these other temps, or at least naming them. So if we get down into this, and well, this is kind of a convoluted condition. It probably is something that could all be combined, and likely was combined into one huge expression. So var T1's acting kind of like a flag. If we ever get to the condition where our entity is hitting something, then we're going to mark that flag. And we can see what this 8,000 flag is. The status is unknown. It does look like it is something related, though, to the sword hitting something. I'm going to go through and attempt to combine these. We'll see if this goes well. Mostly just to clean this up. Actually, I'm going to delay that for just a moment. No sound? Still no sound? My mix here says good. Thank you, Mr. MIDI. It's me enough that it's not surprising. There's some slightly interesting behaviors here where we're looking at a bunch of these greater than equal to. That's pretty uncommon. This is kind of an odd. So we have a branch less than 0. Here, these positions are being calculated as, or being loaded as unsigned, but we want signed versions of those. I don't think that there is... oh, these are... no, it's not 0.16. It is a F32. These are signed. So why are we looking at... Oh, because this is a... this would be a negative value as a byte. Let's see if I have 2's complement. Oh, did they get rid of my 2's complement from the calculator? Apple. That's unfortunate. So this would be, what, negative 16? No. Yeah, it's negative 16. Here we have something similar. These are 16-bit values. We're loading this as unsigned, though, as well. This could be less than or equal to 256. This seems like it's the same, less than 0. We're getting the mask, which we don't want. I'm not sure why. Something is going on here that that I'm not quite seeing. I may pull up the PSP version, and we can muck with it there, which will be much easier. So let's do that. Let's find some unique value that may be present in the PSP version. I'm going to go with this 7,000 flag. 7,000 on the hit points. That seems like a possibly a fixed value. I don't know. Are hit points fractional? And so I didn't think they were. We actually have a couple options. I'm guessing based on the size that we're going to be the biggest one, because the function that we started with, I believe, was around the 6K mark. So does this look similar? I believe it does, and so there's certainly some differences here. The way that entities is being accessed is quite a bit different. We're using an index into entities as the return value. The way that this is laid out is so different than the way that the optimized version was over here that I almost wonder if we're going to get into more trouble starting with the PlayStation version. But I'm going to pop that over and see. It's not as different as I expected. So the major thing that seemed different is how entity was being assigned. This makes me think that this outer loop may have been a for loop to begin with. Let's look at that decompile again. So here, yeah, we're clearly looking at whether or not S1 is within some constraint. So we did have a for loop, and not just this big while loop. And our I'm guessing that it's var A3. Yeah, var A3 is our I. Maybe virus 3. Where's our check to go to block 12? No, it looks like I was mistaken. Virus 3 is our eye. A little bit of an odd check here. I may just restart actually and do this based on the PSP decomp. It is possible that these are implemented differently. Virus 0 is an entity pointer, and so we don't need to increment by that. Yeah, it looks like the the PlayStation version inverted a lot of this logic. Or maybe it's maybe it's the PSP version that's inverting the logic, because if we hit our condition for Virus 1, this is where we're going to fall through and do that other logic that we saw at the end. Interesting how both of these ended up being their own unique reordering. That is definitely the fun of decompiling. So in this, our virus 0 is our entity pointer. And here we have our big condition that we had on the other one. It does look like it was all part of one huge condition. Oh, and it looks like I had mistaken these for signed bytes. It looks like they were signed 16-bit values, so my mistake there. This definitely makes a lot more sense than the PlayStation version. as usual. Looks like I am missing a bracket somewhere. This masking here makes this appear to be a bit flag, but it's effectively taking the sign off of this value. Where is my... missing bracket. And there we go. Go to nowhere. This may be a mod 80. Let's kind of go top to bottom and see where things are missing. So we're we have some extra variables that we will need to get rid of. We have a mask here that should be unnecessary, which means we have a wrong type somewhere. Fortunately, it's in this mess here. The decompiler added that for us. So it looks like these may be out of order. It doesn't look like it. This is a little odd for numeric values like this to just be implicitly checked for non-zero. That doesn't happen a lot. These compile fine, but they're going to look nicer if these are even values. So we'll set those to greater than equal, and we'll compile the same. We have a branch that's going to the wrong place. So this C0, this is a problem with my context. There are... Oh, I'm not going to have them. There are some entities which use an entity pointer at the end, and they used to have them in their extra field, but then that got taken out, and somehow my context is Frankenstein from a bunch of different things, and so I have entity extensions that have that trailing field in them still. So the size ends up being wrong. The correct fix is to fix my context. E. I'm not going to worry too much about that right now. I know that it's an issue with my context and not something that needs to be fixed to get a match. So we're jumping to the wrong place, but that is likely because of some other instructions that are in the way. Virus 3, we'll just call that flag for now. So we've identified something, maybe hit flag. We've identified something that is interacting within the bounding box that we're looking for. Looks like there's a plus 80 that isn't getting... Oh, no, it's a mask for that high bit. this 80 value is being loaded into the V0 register, but then never being is not being used. V0 isn't. Oh, it may be used. V0 is possibly a return value. However, we're returning a pointer, so you'd never use that directly. Oh, looks like somewhere along the way I missed this temp v1 being set, which looks like it is the next I value. No, it's this var s2 plus 1. We do this a couple different ways. So we're incrementing var s2, masking off the lower 8 bits. Yeah, I do think this might be a mod. Let's see if we can... Oh, apparently I wanted 1 million milliseconds in there. So let's say var s2 plus 1 mod 80. Not mask 80, mod 80. So not quite that. Let's see if we can get any additional hints as to what we may be doing just a division. How is this RV1 eventually used? It's stored here in a place that we don't know. I don't know of anybody else streaming. You can join the Discord, and there's a lot of people talking about it. But I haven't found anybody else who's streaming, which is why I do it. For better or for worse. Let's actually take this back over and some of these variables we should be replaced with the PlayStation equivalents. That might be easy to do first. So we want, for example, that I have the monopoly on Castlevania Symphony of the Night decompilation streaming. That's right. I hope nobody tries to butt in on my empire. This entity value up here that I just replaced, that was a reference to the global entities table, and not something we're going to need. This was G entities at offset 40. Yeah, so for now you're stuck with me, for better or for worse. All right, so where were we before? We were at 59% and dropped down quite a bit, about 10%. So let's see if there's anything obvious in here. I was slightly concerned about these. We're still getting some issues around signed values. Let me work these out to integers, decimal integers. And see which of these numbers makes sense. I don't think that's going to change the signedness in the generated instructions, but it could. So on the PlayStation side, we're getting some additions. And so what will happen is the GCC will come through and look at the range and kind of shift the value from 0 to whatever's at the top of the range, and then do the comparison based on that. So it can do one comparison instead of two. In this case, there's no difference in the number of instructions, so it's not really saving much. There is pipelining here that may provide some benefit, but it's not clear to me what that would be. And I wouldn't expect these to be different between the PlayStation and the PSP. Loading these as unsigned is a little strange. Unless I'm looking at the wrong data type. We can force it to a signed value. Yeah, these are F32s, which are signed. Let me try that and see if that does anything to change how these will be loaded. No, no, it doesn't. So loading the value as unsigned, what it's going to do is prevent the sign extension, or the sign from being extended. And so the top 16 bits of that register will all be zeros regardless. And so then when this addition is done to do the shift, we're effectively ignoring that value, but then masking off the result. I'm not sure why GCC is doing that. I'm going to go back to the PSP side because we were making pretty good progress there, and there just may be something that that I'm not seeing at the moment that's forcing these. The order is a little bit odd, and let me just check the check that expression on this side and make sure they're all in order. The reason I say it's odd is because we're looking at the lower end of this first, and of the x coordinate, and then the y coordinate we're looking at the higher side first, and it's just odd to have that inconsistency. Yeah, this could be changed to less than 273. That value isn't is not jumping out at me as anything that's super relevant. It's not like the screen resolution or anything like that. So it must be something specific to the Sword Familiar. And what I want to look at, I'm going to move these. We don't have the PSP signatures anymore. I do want to look at the decompile here. So we're seeing some kind of modulus operation down here. And 7F is 128 or 127. Yeah, 127. So this may be a mod 127. It does look like this may be I'm just constraining this around 128. Yeah, so let's try that. Let's try doing a mod 128 and see if that works. The result is never stored. The result of that mod is never stored back. I guess it is eventually. But let's try that and see if that does what. And then we can get rid of all this. Yeah. That looks like that was it. So here we're doing the same thing. We're incrementing var s2 and then doing the mod against 128. And so we can get rid of, I think, all of that. There was something. Currently, S2 is 1,000,000 microseconds squared. In case you didn't know. I'm missing a mod here. Looks like or some other operation here. Looks like I deleted by accident. It looks like the virus 2. I don't see anything there. What's missing? So a little closer. I will fix this up here. That's new. That is Apple Intelligence. Intelligently. Wanting me to know that virus 2 should be 1,000,000 milliseconds squared. All right, so we do have some things here that aren't quite right, but I think I've been poking at this for long enough today, so we can come back and continue working on it tomorrow, or maybe I'll finish it off tonight. I can get rid of some of these variables. I believe. But that one's coming along reasonably. And I don't think that there's much left here that will need to be fixed. Looking through the PSP version, we even have most of the registers correct, which is nice to see. Like I said, there's an issue around the size of the entity struct that is broken for some reason that I'm not quite sure. Yeah, I have these old definitions. That may have fixed it. Maybe not. I'll have to go through and create a new PSP context. What else can we do before ending today? I don't know. So there is something else that looks like it's not quite a mod going on here. So we're doing a multiply by 2. Oh, it looks like this. So there is it looks like an entity is being assigned here. I'm not sure why. So I'll have to look into this. It's not being used at all. It is being used. Thanks for joining again, Orcam. Appreciate it, as always. This... Oh, that's why. Yeah, so I'll probably poke around at this a little more. It looks like the PSP version now is getting really close to being finished. Just a few minor details, and I think we'll be able to put that one in the can too. None of this has been checked in to GitHub yet, so I'll probably spend some time after the stream doing that, getting it cleaned up and pushed as a PR. Push to where, you might ask? To my white screen? No. To GitHub, where you can find all the code that's been decompiled for Castlevania Symphony of the Night in Zynomo's Soten Decomp repo. A lot of neat stuff there, a lot of tools for decomp and other things. Go to soten.z.dev to see progress on the Castlevania Symphony of the Night decompilation. We've been working on the Sword Familiar. I do hope to have some gameplay so we can go through and try to maybe identify some of the sound effects and other things like that. Join us in Discord and learn about Soten, teach us about Soten. There are still a lot of mysteries to solve. But that is all I have for you today. So thanks everybody for joining, and I appreciate you all. Like, subscribe, do the streamer things, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Adios.